You've tuned in to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes and Dr. Tara Lynn Sell. Your access to success strategies and more to help you move onward and upward with your life. Listen in each week as they interview others who have really taken their essence to the next level and truly unpaused their life. Now here are your hosts, Dr. Callie Estes and Dr. Tara Lynn Sell.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is Dr. Callie Estes, and I am founder of the Addictions Academy, the Addictions Coach, and Rehab Rescue. Welcome to Unpause Your Life. This is a great podcast where we showcase people who have done something extraordinary with their life. I welcome you, and I hope you enjoy all of our guests.
On my way, found a reason to wake up another day. But they needed to.
You are listening to Unpause Your Life with the amazing Dr. Callie Estes and my beautiful, wonderful co-host from the Midwest.
Hey, this is Dr. Tara Lynn Sell.
And we have a great guest for you today. We have James Matthews. You know him as the Sober Savage. Who is he? What is he? What does he do? So he is a man in recovery from alcohol and drugs. After a 2-decade struggle with substance use and in and out of jails and institutions and multiple near-death experiences, he surrendered and admitted complete defeat of a life that was broken and unmanageable. So he's in recovery. But he does something very, very unique. Over a year ago, a higher power placed it in James' heart to begin a journey on his bicycle around the U.S. So far, he's totaled 76,000 miles from east to west coast, helping to not just raise awareness with the addiction crisis that we are up against, but also the brighter side of addiction that, yes, in fact, addicts do recover from substance use and mental health. His new ride is going from Key Largo, Florida to Seattle, Washington. It's going to be a memorial ride dedicated and in honor of all those we lost to accidental overdose and suicide. His mission is to carry a message of hope and the promise of freedom. Hopefully, if all things go well, James will have an RV, a support team, and a documentary following him on his ride. Welcome, James Matthews.
Good afternoon, Callie.
That's it. That's it. A little bit more excitement. Woohoo!
I'm kind of jammed up at the 76,000 miles. It was 7,600 miles, love.
7,600 miles. 7,600.
Yeah, you said 76,000. I was like, wow, that's a lot.
You know what? Don't count on me. I just read this stuff and I don't read it well. Dr. Tara should be doing the intros, but I do my best.
But I do count on you.
Very true.
Well, welcome to the show. Tell us who
Thank
you are,
very
what
much,
you
guys.
are, what's going on.
And I'm very excited. Tell you what's going on a little bit.
Yeah, tell us what's going on. Tell us who you are, what's up, why
All
you're
right.
doing this wonderful, amazing stuff.
All right, I can do that. First of all, I just want to say thank you for inviting me this afternoon. I actually had to put a reminder on my phone. I work in treatment and I work with a bunch of addicts, fresh coming in off the streets, and sometimes it's not easy for me to break away. As Callie will tell you, I've missed ambassador meeting call. I'm usually pretty on point, but I get caught up in the hustle and bustle of working in the field sometimes, but it's neither here nor there. I'm excited to be with you guys here this afternoon. So a little bit about myself real quick. You know, I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I do come from a dysfunctional family. That's not what makes me alcoholic or addict. I know that from a very early age, I picked up on dysfunction without even knowing what dysfunction was. I was very confused growing up, and I'll just touch on that real quick, and as to why I'm geared the way that I'm geared and why I do some of the things that I do. You know, like there were some inconsistencies growing up, especially with stability, and you know, like my mother. You know, I forget what the name of the disease is with women, but, you know, my mother, she carried me and my two sisters very closely in pregnancy. We're very close in age. And, you know, like there's a certain age, I believe my father told me I was around 2 years old when my mother disconnected with me. And I guess that makes sense to me today because I have a sister that's 3 years older than me. and then a sister that's 2 years younger than me. And I also have a half brother and sister, and they're within 2 years apart. I forget what the name of the disease is, but it's a disease where moms they like to be pregnant, they like having a baby, but as soon as that baby's able to walk and pretty much be on its own, they disconnect. And I felt that disconnection for a really, really long time. So I started reaching for outside things. Also, I mentioned I have a half brother and sister, and like when I was younger, I was just a little guy. I noticed every time my dad wasn't around, there was a strange man that was around, and that man would later on become my stepfather. And she was seeing somebody else. So I was very, very confused growing up, and there was already a disconnection with me anyway, because there was just no love in my home. There was a lot of mental, physical, and verbal abuse going on in my home. And what happened for me was I became a teenage runaway. I first ran away from home at 12 years old, and I was actually really, really comfortable with being on the streets, way more comfortable on the streets than I was in my own home, for sure. I've had some really, really cold winters on the streets, and I've had some really, really hot summers on the streets. And, like where I come from, like they don't just bring you home and they find you on the streets. When the law finds you on the streets, what happens is if you're a runaway, they bring you to detention center. And I would actually get a sense of ease and comfort when I would land in the juvenile detention center. And I actually became a frequent flyer in the detention center. I knew all the staff. I knew all the correctional officers, had somewhat of a relationship with them. And, like they made me doing time really easy, I had some perks being locked away. I learned how to become a hustler. I learned how to become a go-getter. I learned how to build defense mechanisms, by looking harder than what I was, because really I'm not, but being in those settings, being between the streets and juvenile detention, there was just a certain way I had to carry myself. And, fortunately, unfortunately, here I am 20 years later, still guarded and protected by some of those same defense mechanisms, but, I found drugs at an early age. My biological father, he rode with the Notorious Motorcycle Club, and like I looked up to that. It was very, very appealing to me. I've seen things and been around people that I probably shouldn't have from a very early age. Started hanging in a tattoo shop with my father, as everyone could probably tell from my face shot if you guys have it up. So things that were normal to me weren't so normal to everyday society, coming into the process finally, like I come to find out I didn't know a whole lot of things. I knew what I knew, and what I knew is getting high under parental supervision and hustling and grinding was accepted, through somebody that I was supposed to be looking up to, which was my father, but I spent a lot of time locked away right around 17. The courts and people didn't know what to do with me, and I wound up in a boot camp. And it was a boys' boot camp located in Chambersburg, PA, up on South Mountain, and I actually excelled in that boot camp. I discovered things about myself that I never knew before. I discovered that I am very, very smart in school, because I was made to go to school during the day, regular school hours, 8:15 to 3 p.m. Everything after that was all physical training and learning how to march and fold flags, all kinds of other stuff. But I discovered some things about myself. And, when I came home January 9th, 1996 from graduating that boot camp, and actually top of the class of that boot camp, once again, my family, I was turned away and forced back onto the streets by something that had went down that had absolutely nothing to do with me. And I was only 17 years old at the time, So from 17 up until 37 years old, when I finally surrendered, to my disease, to my the unmanageability in my life, like I struggled for a really, really long time. I struggled with connecting with people. I struggled with letting people in. I struggled with allowing people to really let them figure me out and let them know what's like really going on with me on the inside. Yeah, I finally surrendered at 37 years old. I'm 40 years old. I just turned 40 in April. And that's just a really brief drive-by of what it was like for me.
So what made you do this ride? Like, this isn't just a small undertaking. This is a huge deal. mean, you're riding a bicycle with no support, peanuts, water from point A to point B, clear across the U.S.
Well, and I said to Kelly, is he riding? You keep saying bike. Do you mean motorcycle or pedal?
Everyone
bike?
thinks it's a motorcycle.
I know,
That's
right?
so funny. People on social media, they're like, "What's the big deal? It's a motorcycle." I'm like, no.
Not a motorcycle.
So, it actually gives me the chills when I talk about this. Every single time someone asks me how I came up with this idea, I wish I could say I came up with the idea. I honestly feel that it was placed in my heart. And I'll tell you where the mission came from. I have lost a lot of people to substance use, a few to suicide as well. That actually stemmed from their substance use because they just didn't see any hope or any way out, so they took their own life. I'm not sure how many people I've lost. It's well beyond triple digits. Wow. It's very, very sad. And, like when I came up with this more than a year ago, I don't go to all the funeral services, and especially being down here in Florida where I got sober. All the people I heard had passed. Unfortunately, I had to grieve from my heart and, not go pay my last respects and such. But when I came up with this ride, I wound up losing a lifelong friend of mine, longer than 25 years. And the gentleman, he had put together some time. He got a little over 7 years, sponsoring men, speaking engagement. He passed away. He wound up going out and using, and unfortunately, that was his last time. And it was important for me to fly home for that one. And not only did I have to attend the service, but I was a pallbearer for that service. And I had never done that before, actually carrying a casket. And it did something to me, majorly. And when I flew back in here to West Palm Beach, the girlfriend that I was with at the time, I had been in for less than 72 hours. And then she was flying into her hometown of Ohio for attending a service for her best friend who was actually found dead with a needle in her arm. And I left 2 little babies behind. I used to ride my bicycle to Planet Fitness. And one morning when I got off my bicycle, my girlfriend at the time, she was still in Ohio, but I got off my bicycle and I went to lock it up around the pole at Planet Fitness. And I don't know where it came from. I don't know why it hit me the way it hit me. But I was already invited to be a key speaker at an event in Philadelphia at the end of April. And they were going to fly me to the event. And what happened was something spoke to me and told me, James, you're not going to get flown to that event. What you're going to do is you're going to get on your bicycle and you're going to ride to that event. And I did.
I'm in awe of that decision all around. I was just enthralled listening intently to what you were saying. How
I can go a step further. I came up with the idea. I went to the bicycle shop. I asked them if the bicycle that I was riding would it make it, and unfortunately, it was a Walmart bike that I had. And no, it would not make it. And then the guy asked me, "Well, where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I'm going from West Palm to Philadelphia." And he said, "And you're supposed to be there by when?" I said, "April 29th is when I have to speak." And he goes on his computer and he Googles some elevation and the ride and this, that, and the third. He's like, "Bro," he's like, if you think, and he's like, "You never did this before?" I said, "No." I said, "I'm not a cyclist." He said, "If you think you're going to make that," he said, "you better leave like yesterday." So basically, like, I came up with the idea. I literally threw a bike together. I only had one saddlebag at the time. I literally loaded it with trail mix and some tuna pouches. And the guy gave me the bare necessities that I would need, like a camelback and a couple other things. He said, "Dude, I wish you well." He's like, "I don't think you're going to make it." I told my daughter's mom, they laughed at me. They didn't think I was serious at all. Nobody thought I was serious. And sure as hell, I woke up, got on my bicycle, and I started making my waypoints. And I made every single one of them. There were some really, really long days. There were some really hot days, especially going through the Carolinas. And I made it. I was supposed to be at the podium by 11 o'clock that Saturday morning. I got in Friday afternoon at 4:33 p.m. So literally within hours, I made that event.
Did they know you were riding?
I was coming. The news crew was already there. It was the first time the news caught up with me. Everyone knew I was coming. Trust me. It was all over social media. You know, it was suggested that I go through social media so people knew that I was out there alone. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and social media was a great platform for that.
So you were well supported throughout the entire ride?
Absolutely. And what happened was I wound up donating that bicycle when I was done speaking, and God placed it on my heart to do that. And there was over 10,000 people in that baseball field when I spoke. It was an overdose awareness walk for my hometown. And, you know, God placed it on my heart to end my share by saying, you know, somebody in this crowd needs this bicycle and somebody needs it more than I do. You know, and come to find out, I wound up giving that bicycle to a gentleman that was brand new in his recovery home. And also he had never been given anything before in his life. And it was actually, it was a pretty powerful moment, you know. But you know, I actually wound up moving to Ohio with the ex that I was just speaking on, former girlfriend. That, you know, a huge part of my recovery. Unfortunately, we didn't last. People change, but you know, we started to build a life in Ohio. And I moved into a hometown that her hometown didn't have no resources as far as substance use is concerned. And me and my partner wound up putting together and working with some first responders and some city commissioners and the mayor and such, and we put together a peer-to-peer recovery center. And in those moments, I come up with an idea that I'm going to ride my bicycle from Ohio up to Portland, Maine, and back down around through southern Ohio. And that took me little over 7 weeks, that ride, you know. And it really, really, of course, it raised some more awareness and you know, Fox ABC News wanted to do some follow-ups on that one. They got me that time. They got me in Portland, Maine. They got me in Wilmington, Delaware, and New Hampshire did a newspaper article on me. But seeing New England and going through some of those states was absolutely amazing. A lot of it was very rural, especially upstate New York and New England. Because you got to remember, I do these rides without no music. You know, it's just me and whatever's around me. You know, so it was a very, very spiritual experience for me.
How long do you think this ride is going to take?
I've estimated. I do have my waypoints. I sent my waypoints over to you, Callie, and I don't take any days off, or at least I don't like to take any days off. That's how I was able to do the West Palm to LA one in 42 days. I'm thinking if. And I did see that there's a lot of elevation on this ride, especially in Montana. And that's the only thing that stopped me on my ride from Ohio up to Portland, Maine from making my waypoints was elevation. Like I would go 11 hours and like not even be halfway to my waypoint because of elevation. But if all goes well and with the few days added in there, I'm looking at about 2.5 months on this one.
Wow. Do you train for this, or is this just you and?
I haven't trained for any of them.
Wow.
Matter of fact, the one that I just did, I had my bicycle, and the last time I got on my bicycle was when I got off for the Ohio to Maine bicycle ride. I hadn't even been on it the whole entire time.
You know, it's interesting to me because I think you have trained, you've mentally trained, and I think that's almost more important than physical training.
And that's what it is. When people ask me about that, they're like, how long do you train for? And I've done some research. Of course, I've done a lot of homework. And there's guys that, especially the cross-country thing, especially with the heat and all that other stuff that I just went through out there on this ride to the West Coast, people train for months and months for that. And what I tell people is the way that I see it in my perception on things is there is no amount of training that you can do, especially when you're going through the desert. Really, it's my heart that brings me from waypoint to waypoint, especially in some really, really bad situations. You know, like I'll just think of some people I lost, or you know, what the purpose or what the cause is for. And next thing you know, I wind up in my following waypoint. Especially on days where I'm like, I'm not going to make this waypoint today. There was times where I got trapped in the desert and had to get rescued. Callie will tell you about that. And next thing you know, like something carries me to my waypoint, you know, without any water, with completely cramping up and just feeling like I don't have anything left in me. And something, I pull something up out inside of me, and it always gets me to the following waypoint. It's amazing.
What was the rescue mission, Callie? What you said, Callie has a story about that?
There was quite a few of them out there in the desert. I had to get rescued 3 times out of the desert.
He almost died. So let me paint the picture for you, Dr. Tara. So you or I want to do a bike ride. This is how it goes. Hey, let's do a bike ride. Okay, let's go take a bike at the shore that we rent for $15 and go from ice cream stand to ice cream stand. That's how, we do it. James goes.
Wait a minute. Wait, first of all, I have to back up. If Callie called me and said, "Hey, let's go for a bike ride," I'd be like, "Yeah, no." And then it would end. Sorry.
So James
carry on.
James decides to go on a bike ride. Okay, so he decides to go from Florida to LA on a bike ride. And he decides to go with protein bars and peanuts and limited cell phone service in the desert in July. Now,
and a beeper and a flip phone.
Exactly. Now, I've been in the desert in July in the RV. And in the RV, it hit 110 degrees with the AC on. So no way in hell are you going to get me in the desert in the RV ever again, let alone a bicycle. Then he gets out there and his GPS takes him in the wrong direction. So he's in the desert. He's like 10 or 12 miles in the fucking desert with no cell phone service, dying with no water. And he reaches out and we're all scrambling trying to find him and the police are trying to find him and he almost dies. Meanwhile,
I did.
You and I are sitting at home in our AC with our feet propped up, ordering Instacart ice cream. And
the first responder, it was a state trooper. There was 3 that showed up. State trooper first showed up, and then Border Patrol showed up, and then search and rescue behind them. And thank God I did have cell phone service on that one. There were so other times where I was stranded. This was the most severe though, because I'd been out of water for so long. When the state troopers called my phone and asked me to hang up and dial 911 so they can pinpoint my location, the state trooper, the very first responder that showed up, he actually was a native there in New Mexico, and he used to hunt coyote out there. And he asked me, he said, "I hunt coyote, and I've never been this far in the desert." He said, "How did you get out here?" I said, "Google Maps." I said, "Let's thank Google Maps for this one." But I was completely dehydrated out on the main road, some miles out. They had an ambulance and a tent set up and all that other stuff. And, it was scary. I don't care what I look like or how tough I look. It was scary. I was fading out while I was on the phone with the dispatcher. There's no place in the desert to just sit under the shade. The sun was just beating on me, and my lips were already infected from the ride, from all the wind and the sun and everything. I had nothing but dry blood in my mouth. And the only thing I kept on thinking about was water. And of course, my following thought was, well, like, I'm about to drink my own pee. Like I was feeling desperate.
Mm-hmm. So let's put that in relation to you and I, Dr. Tara. I stubbed my toe and thought I broke my toe. And I'm on the floor crying and calling 911 to come fix my toe. Versus James is in the desert dying of dehydration and heat, and he gets through it. So I think it's a testimony to his endurance and his ability, not only mental, but physical, to handle that. I couldn't do it. I did a century ride from Philly to Jersey, and that was 150 miles round trip in 2 days. And I almost lost it on day 2 because it was exhausting. And that was with a bunch of people and food stops along the way and watering and whatever you need. So this type of thing, it's so unique in itself. And it's unique in our industry because nobody's doing this kind of awareness. There's rallies and there's walks and there's music events and all the same old boring shit. And there's conferences and yada, yada. This is completely different. It's one man out there alone crossing the desert. So I wanted to have James on to talk about it because I don't think a lot of people understand what it really is. I think they go, oh, it's James and his bicycle. Okay, have a good time. And they sit down and they watch their TV show and
I don't think people in the recovery community, I can't make a blanketed statement because there are some, I just don't know who they are, but we don't really talk about the mental fortitude that it takes to not just engage in recovery, but to engage in something even beyond that. And, James, what do you want people to know about by doing this? What is it what's your end goal?
I hope that's not your $1 million question because that's an easy one for me.
It's not.
Okay. Just putting it out there. I'm not scared. Right.
Okay.
I was that kid that no one ever believed in. And I was the kid that, my lifestyle that I lived, people didn't expect to see me live past 25. It was a complete lifestyle change for me when I came into the recovery process. And, at 37 years old, when I finally surrendered, I wasn't even sure if I was worth the recovery process. It just seemed like so much work, and there was so much wreckage in my path. Like there was just a lot of damage, and I wasn't even sure if I had it in me to put in the work, you know. And then I did get I did find my path through a 12-step program, and when I surrendered to that program, I'd been around that program for a while, but when I surrendered and was ready to do some work, it just seemed like never-ending work for me. And you know, here I am a little over 3 years later. You know, I did get my 3-year coin out there. Somebody actually mailed it to me. They told me the ABC News wanted to do a follow-up, and they were meeting me at this little crappy hotel. And come to find out, they had bought me a room for the night, pre-sent a package for me, and it was my 3-year medallion while I was out there. But there's such a stigma, and there was with me, and especially with some of the people that love me, like, hey, this guy's never going to change. You know, especially at the age where I came into the process. Even, you know, like my daughter's a huge part of my story, and I don't mind talking about that. When I got out of treatment number 9, I was actually asked to leave her alone, like stop calling her, you know, her mom. That was per her mom's request. And my daughter's mom has known me since literally we were in 9th grade, you know, and here we are at 40. So that's a really long time, right? They didn't see any hope for me anymore. I didn't see it in myself, bottom line. And, you know, the only thing I wanted to learn how to do was to not get high. You know, and if that's all that I got from my process and all that I thought that I was going to get, I was cutting myself way short. What I gained from it, and it's things that I need, especially from the mental and verbal and physical abuse from younger, like I have self-worth today. And I know that I can achieve today. You know, I know that I'm not that kid that people didn't think was going to make it to a certain, possibly not make it past a certain age. You know, I actually have people that believe in me today because I believe in myself. And it doesn't only raise the awareness, because I don't need to ride a bicycle from here to Kingdom Come for people to know that there's an addiction crisis that we're battling, right? But I want people, you know, because people in the media is so quick to just show the addiction side. And it's my personal purpose to show the recovery side to this. That's just the bottom line. That is the brighter side to addiction, that we do recover. And that's my hope.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
this brings us to Dr. Tara's actual $1 million question.
Well, I feel like I shouldn't even ask it, because so much of what you do, I think, could fit the bill. But I want to hear it from you. So we ask all of our guests, what is the most badass thing that you think you've ever done? Not that these things aren't completely badass, by the way, but you may have a different answer. I don't know.
The most badass thing that I have ever done in my entire life,
Yes,
was go up to a man completely broken. And I honestly, I stepped to him as a shell of a man. And I told him that I don't know how to live life, and will you please help me to live life? And that's when my life changed. That's the most badass thing for a guy like me that's not supposed to show emotion or supposed to show my feelings or supposed to cry or smile. And for me to be able to go up to another man and ask him for help is the most badass thing that I've ever done.
That's pretty
And
cool.
that's the truth.
Tara, have you seen his photo?
well, yeah. And I just was on his Facebook page earlier today, and I listened to one of your videos, and you're a super humbling guy. And I just love what you have to say about, you know, mental health and addiction and medications and diagnoses and all these things. And I was listening to you, and I'm like, this guy has it totally right. You have it totally right. And not too many people do. So I'm just so behind everything that you're doing right now. And everybody surprises me with these answers. We get all kinds of different answers. And mostly the people who look like they're doing super badass things, like riding a bike, like that's pretty badass. But most of them have a very humble response, like you just did, because that response was more from the heart, you know, like your badass heart. And I just really appreciate it. And I really wish you well on your journey.
Thank you very much. I have some amazing people. I can't leave you guys with this. I know we're probably way over time, but I had to get rescued off of I-4 West, and actually on this day, I was on the phone with Callie, actually for quite some time, and I think Callie will remember this day. I had been out there for about 7 hours when Callie reached out to me. The only thing that was in this area was a Pilot gas station. It was a truck stop. a gentleman drove 3.5 miles from Phoenix, Arizona to help rescue me off of I-4 West. But I remember when search and rescue came to get me off the road, the very first thing this gentleman said to me was, it's like, what are you doing out here? I said, oh, I'm out here, raising awareness coming up from South Florida with the opioid epidemic, and I said, I'm on a mission. And he said, well, where's the rest of the team? I said, they're around. I said, you just don't see them, and my point in saying that is I have a whole army that I walk with and that walk beside me, and to have Callie a part of that coalition and the many other amazing people, to me, it's just a blessing. And I don't take it for granted either. I try and make sure I'm consistent with Callie. I try and make sure I check in with her. I try and just reach out to her just to let her know that, like, hey, I'm thinking of you, or like, I appreciate you, because there's reasons for that, because I do,
Well, that's awesome. And I'm looking forward to your next ride and getting more awareness out there and letting people know about it and doing some more.
We're going to get one of those we're going to get one of those 2-seater bikes, and you're going to put in some work too.
If I have to go, Dr. Tara has to go.
They make the 3-seater ones. As a matter of fact, I think they make 5, 6, and 7-seater ones too.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
You could hook me up in a pull behind. How about?
You cannot be in a pull behind. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and give us your website and your Twitter and your Facebook and all that kind of stuff. If people want to reach out to you and donate to the ride or help you along the way in any way, shape, or form, how can they reach you?
Facebook Messenger, Instagram, Ride for Recovery page, and it's my understanding that Callie's actually helping me put together a badass website that'll have a donate button and a cart button for all the merchandise I'm getting ready to sell, especially to these Yankees up north that won't leave me alone about hoodies and skull caps.
It's skull cap weather.
I just had a message today. Actually, there's comments on my post from today, people asking for hoodies. No lie. I had them last year, and I'm trying to get them going this year. It's just, things will happen when they happen, I guess. I'm not hard to find. Look for the guy with the face tats that rides his bicycle everywhere. And I am on Instagram. I am not on Twitter. I'm not on Snapchat. I'm very basic with this. Callie's actually schooling me and telling me how to, spread my wings a little bit. And
well, by the time this airs, your website will be live. So give us that.
Okay.
What is it? What's your website?
I don't know what the website is.
Unbelievable.
I am unbelievable. If you know it, how come you won't say it for me?
I don't remember it. That's why I asked you to do it. You picked it. You said, this is what we're going to use.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Oh, man.
SoberSavageRecovery.com.
There we go. SoberSavageRecovery.com will be up and live. And Sober Savage is your Instagram.
Yeah. Can I see, Callie? I'm getting better already, aren't I? You hate us 12-steppers, don't you?
Oh, my God. Sometimes it's pulling teeth. It's like, come on now. We'll get you going.
Listen, Callie, by this time next year, can you imagine how far I've come? I might have a Twitter account.
Honey, this time next year, you're going to have a reality TV show. Mark my words.
Wow. All right.
All right.
I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for having me on.
We appreciate. Thanks for coming on. And you
have a wonderful ride.
You have been listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes and my wonderful cheesehead friend,
Dr. Tara Linsell.
Have a great day, guys. Hey, everyone. Thanks again for listening. I really hope you enjoyed the show today. Head on over to iTunes and Apple Podcasts and leave a comment or review of what you think. Or contact us at 1-800-706-0318. If you want to be on our show, feel free to email or call. And if you have a topic, feel free to email or call as well.
Thanks for listening to Unpause Your Life. For show notes and more, head on over to unpauseyourlife.com.
Big shout out to recoveryinnovators.com for help producing this show. Thank you, guys.
I took a walk down the long road where they said that I shouldn't go. On my way found a reason to wake up another day, but they needed to show you all the things that you they said that I shouldn't go. I knew the dangers of flying. Now I'm so far from solid ground. But they needed to show you all the things that you won't do. Find faith or religion, but nothing to show for it. No need to escape, in love with my pain. I may be weak, but I'm alive, still alive, and I won't be bound by your mistake. No, I won't be your enemy, trapped at the gate. Bring me to life, put me to death, just give me some